Hi, welcome back to the CIPPE Prep Marathon. So far, we've gone through the IAPP book in depth. We have gone through the GDPR and we are on our way to memorize it sort of. When I talk about memorization, by the way, I mean that you should be able to look at the law and be able to tell which article that is from, and you should be able to look at the article and recall the key points of what exists in that article. Now, in this week, we are going to start focusing on the new laws and the other EDPB guidelines that exist that will be important for the exam. Specifically, we are going to focus on the EU AI Act, the Data Governance Act, the Digital Markets Act, and the E-Privacy Act, because all four of these are important. Three of these are new, which is why they become more relevant. What you need to focus on when you're going through these laws is firstly, any new definitions that have been included. So for example, the EU AI Act has words like provider, deployer, importer. It has prohibited risk, high risk. These definitions don't exist in the purview of GDPR. You need to be able to look at these definitions and understand what they are talking about. Secondly, you need to be able to understand their relationship with GDPR. So, do they take precedence over GDPR or do they work parallelly to GDPR? Things like that. Third, you need to be able to see if they establish any organizations. So, the EU AI Act establishes an AI office, if I am correct. So, this kind of establishment is really, really important, and I believe this also exists in the NIS 2 directive. I'm not 100% sure, but wherever such establishments have been made or a specific body has been made, just try to remember that. And the last thing is enforcement. How does the enforcement happen? What are the penalties? Very, very important for all of these laws. It will be slightly difficult for non-law people to go through an entire BEAR Act. So if you don't at this moment have the headspace or the resilience to go through an entire BEAR Act, you will first go through the summary of the Act. Please, reputable sources. The EU official websites themselves have a lot of these summaries, and there are a lot of really reputable sources that have made summaries, right? So go through those. Once you go through those summaries, you're going to go through the questions and answers that are often uploaded by the EU. And once you've done that, you are in a better state to be able to understand the BEAR Act. I would still recommend going through the BEAR Act because that is going to ensure you don't miss out on anything. But at the end of the day, it is your decision. When we are talking about the guidelines, I think there are about 20 or 23 of them. So go through the book of knowledge and go through the IAPP book. If you remember, earlier our system of classification had EDPB guidelines given in them. So you already have a list of guidelines from your reading back then, and you go through the book of knowledge just to see if you missed out on anything. The length of these guidelines varies from 7 pages to 30 pages. So you can take 1 to 2 weeks to go through all of them. Just take your time. That's something I'm going to say. And again, mark anything that you think is important. If there are any definitions that you're not used to, mark it down. Here, I think the NIS 2 directive, the e-commerce directive, and like I said, the e-privacy directive are really, really important. But questions do come from the others as well. And please bear in mind that CIPP is a very situation-based exam. So a lot of situations that will be asked in the form of questions are already existing in the EDPB guidelines. Maybe you'll just get scenarios that are mentioned in the guidelines as it is. Maybe there'll be a little bit of change in them. So going through the guidelines is definitely worth it. If you need to get the CIPP done as soon as possible, maybe you are applying for jobs or you think this is going to give you some sort of leverage, at this point a lot of people do believe that you are ready to give the exam. But if you are someone who has invested a lot of money into this, you can't exactly afford to do that again, and time is not a big problem. You can take a little bit longer. You can continue on this journey with me. But at this point, if you think that you really need to get this done quickly, it would be a good idea to give one mock from anywhere. I have taken one of the mocks from Udemy. I'm going to put a link of that in the description, and I have been given decent reviews for that. So you can take one of those mocks and see how you're scoring, and if you think you're scoring quite well, go ahead, give the exam. But if you still want to ensure that you are moving past just passing the exam and passing by a good margin to just ensure that your money is safe, please, you're more than welcome to join me on this. With this, I hope you have a great week ahead. Enjoy studying, and I'll see ya. Bye bye.